I think I've always been very entrepreneurial. And I think that you can be entrepreneurial even if you're working in a corporation. And I think that's actually probably number one skill to have, especially right now. I mean, I don't believe very much in proclivities when it comes to occupation. I think a lot of it comes from where you grew up and what you've seen around you.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to Bold Conscious Connections. My name is Raju Panjwani, and I'm just thrilled to have you here. So this channel is dedicated to exploring the journeys of visionary leaders, entrepreneurs, who really dare to follow their dreams, their passions, and create really impactful businesses. So if you're looking to become an entrepreneur or otherwise seeking inspiration to elevate your career, well, you're in the right place, my friend. Let me say, why do I do this? It's because, like you, I had a career over 25 years, and at some point, my desire to follow my own path just took over, and I quit my job about 20 years ago now. So on this channel, what I do is we delve into strategies, mindsets, stories behind the success of those that have done this before, like I have. So what I want you to do is hit the subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and join us on this exciting journey towards living boldly and consciously. Well, today I'm so happy to have Yael Tamar. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Yael. She is a co-founder, CEO of Distributed Investment Banking, DIBS for short, and she'll explain what that means because she's trying to create a vast multi-broker network to facilitate the market of sale of secondary shares of private companies. If you know what that means, she'll tell you more about it. Okay. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing her on this piece because when you see the show notes and you'll see what she talks about, you get the idea. But she's a firepower. I've seen her on her videos. I got to know her a little bit a couple of years ago when she was building her blockchain business, and which is what this DIBS is about. Anyway, so Yael, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. You will, of course, through your stories, tell us what all this is about. But anyway, I welcome you to Bold Conscious Connections, the show.
Thank you, Raju. It's great to be here. Very excited. And I've gotten to know you through, of course, your investment banking work. But on top of that, what I was very excited to discover was the coaching world. I also touch on some of that in my career with different entrepreneurs and professionals that seek advice. And I always love to learn new techniques and even new approaches. I know every coach out there, every mentor out there has their own style, and even more interestingly, has their own mindset about achievement, right, in coaching. And I love what you and I talked about in unity consciousness, and so I'm super excited actually to also learn from you on this podcast. Right?
Well, thank you for being. I know you've been on many stages in your life. You've had 100 blockchain speaking engagements. Apart from your coaching business, you've been, doing integral to whatever you do. You've been recognized as top 20 pro tech influencer. The blockchain world with women, to me, I get excited because I just go that all this great superpower that exists in the female energy and the woman is like so powerful. So just to be clear, you're based in Tel Aviv in Israel, but you spend time in New York as well, correct?
Correct. I went to school in New York, to Hunter College, and New York has a special place in my heart, and I come back frequently. Tel Aviv is my home, which is also home to a lot of technology, a lot of blockchain innovation, many startups in this area. And of course, everybody has this vision of working globally, connecting global markets. And so this brings me an opportunity to speak in different conferences, physical and virtual, around the world, and to share the knowledge within the blockchain Web3 space. And as you mentioned, I am a part of a number of women's organizations specifically for speaking and for technology integration in this space. And it's particularly exciting because as any new industry, you have this leveling of a playing field for new participants, and specifically minorities, whether it's women, whether it's people of color, and others. And that was one of the most interesting initiatives, I think, in my career when I entered this world in 2016, 2017, is that I saw that it was relatively easy for me to repurpose a lot of my tech and business experience, which I've accumulated for about almost 2 decades at that point. And I could use it for this new industry, which, even though it was complex in its tech value and tech, even lingo and the way you operate, as many emerging tech fields are. But at the same time, if you possess a certain level of tech and business acumen, you see these industries popping up. Obviously, we've seen AI, now we see quantum, we see biotech. And so these are great opportunities for executives to really immerse themselves, and especially minorities, to really immerse themselves into a new category and a new industry and emerge as leaders.
Well, Yael, you have such a rich and diverse background. You're Wall Street, blockchain, coaching. But let's strip away the titles and all the work we kind of do for a moment. But who is Yael when no one's watching?
I feel like somebody is always watching. I'm a little spiritual. I call it pragmatic spiritual. So the universe is out there watching, guiding, and providing, in Judaism, we call it private guidance, which is interesting, right? There's public guidance, private guidance. And so everything you do is for the best type of thing. So, I never say, okay, now I can relax and, I can, sit here and do whatever I want. Although on the other hand, I feel like I always sit here and do whatever I want. You know what I mean? I don't see a duality between private and public life, work and home. There is a harmonious relationship in all of these things. But if you're asking about my why.
Who is Yael and not in the public domain? That's what I meant.
Yeah. So I hope and I feel that those two people is really one. But in the public domain, a lot of people recognize me, and a lot of times I go to a conference or on the street and people think they know me. And I might have met them for the first time and they're like, Yael. And because they've seen my videos online, especially in blockchain, I've taught a number of courses, started this tokenization space, which is essentially securitization and securities, financial products that are traded or transferred on the blockchain ledger on the network of blockchain instead of, let's say, bank to bank or investment bank to an investment bank in this traditional paper way. And so we started this industry, and a lot of people took my courses or saw me at events, and they're like, Yael, if it's in Tel Aviv or New York or California or Indonesia. So it's happened to me many, many times, and it's allowed me to also open doors, and I love it. People are super friendly. They want to do things together. And that's the spirit of the blockchain industry. And that's also me in real life, because I do have a lot of, from the very beginning when social media started, I was there. I was in AOL chat rooms. I was one of the first on Facebook outside of Harvard. I was on MySpace before, and before MySpace, there was ICQ. When I was in high school, I got to the US. I was 16 years old or 15 years old. And I was like, all night long, I was sitting and chatting with people back in the day when it was safer in these chat rooms. And that when social media came on, for me, it was amazing, because you can sit here in Tel Aviv and be friends with everyone in the world. And, I used to sing songs on YouTube. And as I was learning how to play guitar and do music, and there's all these musicians all over the world, and we were making music together. And I think that that's the spirit, and also what you're talking about, how we're all connected, right?
Wow. So wait, you just said so many things just there. Hold on. So what got you into the journey? I mean, I always ask this question, like, who is this person that I'm talking to? Yeah. So now we're getting the sense. What are the turning points that led you to be entrepreneurial or become an entrepreneur? Because you had a corporate life. So talk about that and the transition, because a lot of my listeners tend to be sitting on the fence. They're successful, they're unfulfilled yet, and they just think it's about the money, and then they realize that that's only going to go so far. And
It's true.
What is it? What's that thing that switched?
I think I've always been very entrepreneurial. And I think that you can be entrepreneurial even if you're working in a corporation. And I think that's actually probably number one skill to have, especially right now. Beyond, of course, learning, but being entrepreneurial.
Is that a skill or is that a proclivity that somebody has, Yael?
It's definitely a skill. I mean, I don't believe very much in proclivities when it comes to occupation. I think a lot of it comes from where you grew up and what you've seen around you. And I grew up in the Soviet Union, which became Ukraine when I was 7 years old.
Oh.
When I was 7 years old, my father started this business, quit his PhD in physics, started a business, some food-related business. And I remember I was very young and we were sitting there. Obviously, I guess they didn't have a babysitter. So I was like packing some snacks that they were going to sell. And then they gave me a salary in which I, went and bought a toy. That was the reality of it. And then I've seen people take opportunities all the time. And at the same time, this new system kind of collapsed and crashed. And so I would go after school buy ice cream and I would see the prices be in hundreds of millions because the currency devalued. And then I understood, like, okay, these things are worthless. It's the same ice cream, but they're adding zeros every day. So I think those things shaped my understanding of how you can actually, make money, with my parents and doing businesses, small gigs here and there. And then I got to the US and things changed, actually. It was much less about entrepreneurship from where I was standing at that time in a small town, South Carolina. It was more about, getting to the next stage. You have to study hard, you get scholarships, you practice sports, you get on the team. So it was more about kind of merit-based achievement. And at the same time, you could see the shortcuts that working hard provided you. So that was a different approach, but also a very much like America, I think, is the land of opportunity. That's for sure. As long as
you just mentioned you were in South Carolina. I mean, I live in South Carolina now. I don't know if you know that.
Cool. Yeah.
Which town was yours? Charleston? Where were you?
No. So in high school, it was called Kershaw.
Oh.
It's in Lancaster County.
Oh, okay.
Kershaw. Andrew Jackson High School.
Okay.
That's where I went to high school.
So that's interesting. So there's a subtle difference between obviously, the New York City environment and here, and of course Israel. So two cities with wildly different vibes for you growing up.
My hometown was a large town actually in Ukraine, and going to the US I think was one of my first big manifestations where I didn't want to be where I was, and I said I have to go. And so there was a contest of all the Ukrainian children, high school age, and they took like 100 to America. Everything, all expenses paid, and I made it. I made the cut, and that was definitely a turning point in my life.
That's great.
Yeah.
So how do these places, particularly these two sort of Israel and let's call it New York City for a minute, influence how you think, how you lead, how you live your life?
Yeah, I think that the place itself has always been, just like in Woody Allen movies, is one of the characters. Right? New York, right? Yeah. Where you see a lot of opportunities. You have a lot of people. I transferred from a small university in South Carolina to Hunter College in New York, 50,000 people school. And somehow opportunities always follow me. And I think it's because of the people. I'm very social. So I made friends with Alicia, who you met, I think, in person, right? Yeah, coffee with Alicia. So she was my best friend in college. And she was also a big techie from 15 years old, had her own business, was hustling. And at that point, Hunter College didn't have, or the dorms didn't have Wi-Fi. And so she single-handedly installed in the school. And there was no normal age people that understood how to do this, what to do. And so we became friends because I was, in the same type of vibe. and so on and so forth. And so the people that I've met at that time were also, hustling, creating opportunities, building their lives. And that's New York City for you.
Mhm.
People from all walks of life, usually, gathering in this one huge place and trying to make it, essentially.
Yep.
So that was, for me, that was definitely the quintessential model for the world. And networking was huge in college.
Right.
You passed courses in grad school, which was incredibly difficult. I don't know. In the cities, for a city school, it was really, really difficult in economics. And you only passed because, you networked with really smart African children or adults at that point, right? Students. So that's the reality of it. And it teaches you how to hustle, how to network, and network
Right.
with your professors and so on.
So, as a woman, and you've been recognized in this word, but we all feel sometimes when you step into a new space like blockchain or crypto, and everybody confuses the two, which we know is not the way it's supposed to be. There is no crypto without blockchain. We know that. Of course, there can be blockchain without crypto. We could feel in a new space imposter syndrome, or feel so challenged. Like, what am I doing this with this space? What is it for you? Did you ever feel like one, or like what have you left behind?
So the beauty of the emerging industry, of any emerging industry, is that we're all imposters in a way.
Mhm.
So
Right.
I never had a problem admitting what I don't know. I think that's what made me very successful in my corporate career. I was always asking questions, but the way I was asking questions, it was always by taking an initiative. Okay, I see this problem in our department, or I see this opportunity. So I was working for example, in structured products and funds of funds, and I ended up building an algorithm and basically Excel, Visual Basic, and downloading data from Bloomberg. Back in the day, there were no packages like there are today, of course. So downloading every day the data and doing some manipulations and calculations, and then understanding their balancing needs, things like that. So, and since I was at some point doing my PhD in economics, and then I was very technical and did programming courses and lots of math. So it was really fun for me. So I was like, okay, let's do this. Like, I want to make these algorithms because I don't want to do this manually. I think it was partially laziness because I really don't like manual work. So AI is a lifesaver for me in a way. And so it was that. And then when the social media came about, I was like, guys, I know that we're a B2B. I know that we're a fund, but we are always looking for clients. We want to work with family offices. We want new relationships. Let's open up all these social pages. So we had one of the first Facebook pages for corporate, LinkedIn, and so on. Right. So that's how I kind of got my marketing career started. So from there on, I went to do marketing for a couple of corporates and business, and in business development, it was also a fun, and that's how I got also into investments. And then the same fund of funds put me in the private equity role, because I ended up like learning about every single startup in Israel and attending all these events just to learn and understand more about how investments are done. And then I went to interview every VC fund to start writing a PhD on the subject of how private equity liquidity is created. And so from these curiosities, things turned out really well for me.
So you're talking about being curious, of course, but let's now dive into, because you're already hitting what you do today. So what's your mission right now, apart from the fact that you use coaching as a way to get people to, to help them overcome their beliefs, etc. But what is a current mission with DIBS, and what is DIBS?
Okay, before I get into DIBS, I just want to tell you a secret. And then don't tell any people I coach, and I coach very few, 1 or 2 a month. But I really do it for me. I love for them to, of course, get good value, and I think they do. But what I think they also know, I really learned so much from being able to solve problems, even though I don't even solve their problems, they solve their problems themselves. And I don't even recommend the solution, as the coaches are not supposed to, right? But you're able to kind of guide, in some ways, like the universe guides people, right? By getting them introduced to other people or obstacles or whatever. So you're able to kind of steer things. And then the thing is, when you are playing this adversary, or you're playing this sometimes devil's advocate even, right? When somebody tells you their limiting belief and you're saying, but what about this thing you did? What about that thing you did? And you're not really telling them, well, stop thinking that you're incapable. You need to be more, proud of what you're doing. And that never works. So, and then while I'm doing this, I'm thinking about myself, of course, subconsciously, So the more you hear someone else say, wait a second, I am capable, I am entrepreneurial, I can do this, and I've done this many times before, you're thinking to yourself, why, what's wrong with me? I can do more, and I can go higher, and I can aim higher. So that's the secret. Now,
well, as a coach, I know you don't tell people what to do. You just basically, your goal is to facilitate a breakthrough that they can then figure out that, oh, I'm capable, I can do this.
I know, exactly. So I get out of it more, a lot. I get out of it a lot, but more than it's kind of pride for someone else's accomplishment. I also get my own. But DIBS is actually the vision that I had since about 2005, where I...
Can you explain what DIBS is? Distributed Investment Banking.
So distributed investment bank, we actually now are calling ourselves distributed brokers. It's shorter.
Okay.
DIBS is a mix of BlackRock and NASDAQ-like functions. So an investment bank and an exchange functions to bring liquidity to private markets, to ensure that you can transfer private equity, aggregate, do any sort of financial product operations with private companies or private stock, as you do with public today. Right?
So give people an example if they don't know what this is about, if my listeners don't know what this is.
So what's the most frequently mentioned financial product in the world, or the most common or the most recommended financial product in the world, the benchmark, so to speak, as how the markets are doing?
Sure.
That would
S&P.
be,
S&P or index funds, or
some sort of an index fund, right? Like S&P 500. I think I haven't checked on ChatGPT search or anything like that, but I would bet that that's probably the kind of the first thing that comes to mind, and that's the top 500 companies. We don't give financial advice here, by the way. So you have the top 7 companies that are really leading the index, and then you have the other 493, and that all of that is public companies. So companies that had to basically place their assets under, assets being their shares, right? That their shares under custody of a broker, a large broker, and essentially locked in NASDAQ. And then those shares are now traded. They're digital. Now the NASDAQ digitizes them, and then, or they might be listed. By the way, I don't even know. I don't think they have to be traded on NASDAQ only. It could be, I think, also on other exchanges. But essentially, the index itself combines a bunch of public companies. And then as a public company, you have to do a lot of metrics, provide, different metrics, indications, reports, things like that. And that's why there's lots of trading going on, because the minute that your company reports lower revenue or higher revenue or new contracts, things like that, the markets react, right? And then somebody decides the company is worth less and they sell. And then somebody decides the company is worth more and they buy. One of these people ultimately, one of the sides is ultimately right, and they're going to win this game at that point in time, right? So that's basically the essence. And I love it actually on just the life level. We make a lot of decisions in life, what to focus on. Sometimes release some of the things, right? Maybe leave a corporate job, start an entrepreneur career. right? And then somebody else comes in and fills your corporate job, right? Or the other way around. If you start
Sure.
this entrepreneurship journey and then, you give up, then someone's going to come and finish what you started. So whether you want it or not,
That's right.
right? So it's all about exchange and transactions and the network at the end of the day. But
Awesome.
going back to DIBS, imagine having that for private companies, right? Like different benchmarks probably than what you see in public companies, but also understanding where the company is going in terms of its, also revenue and sales and network and things like that, but also being able to invest in the whole verticals, right? Like if you really like Web3 and you think it's going to increase in value, then you can invest in the top 30, top 50, top 100 Web3 companies. You can do the same in AI, you can do the same in biotech, or you can choose a composite or diversified index of private companies. And
So do you see this? Do you see this happening soon? Anytime soon?
It's already happening, Raju. The problem with what's happening, like with almost any other technology that we see emerging, and Web3 specifically, initially, if you remember, all the investment banks were against it. Bitcoin, and they would say Bitcoin is a scam, and they all came out up in arms, banks and investment bank, SEC, and everybody. Now the tide has turned around, right? Now they're talking about Federal Reserve in Bitcoin. Some corporations have voted to place investments in Bitcoin. Some voted for, some voted against. So you can see things have changed. Now, what's not made the news, and you said, like, what's the difference between crypto and blockchain? Well, blockchain is essentially similar. The tech is similar to the internet. It's an enabler.
Exactly.
It's an infrastructure that helped create assets like Bitcoin, which is the first and to this day the only completely decentralized currency, which has incredible implications for being able to make transactions in a network type situation where you don't want to give large parties more power. By the way, with the current kind of mistrust of government in the US, I'm surprised that cryptocurrency has not gained more following. But at the same time, Bitcoin was the first. And then every single large bank is now using blockchain because it makes cheaper transactions. So they're using it internally and faster and cheaper and secure and everything. And the banks have been implementing and integrating this technology since 2011, 2012. Right? And so on a broad sphere, right now, we see a lot of funds that are of private equity, of private stocks, that provide benefits. But who do they provide benefits and insane profits to? Banks, large banks, investment banks. Some of them provide this further down, the chain, their LPs, their limited partners, their investors, right? They're managing the assets on behalf of others, usually high net worth individuals. But at the end of the day, it's not democratized enough. You can't invest easily. You cannot divest easily, right? There's no liquidity there. When they're listed on exchanges, or OTC markets and so on, they're very few and far in between, because most of the time they don't want to share the profits with the public from this type of market movements. It is a little risky, of course, or some could argue much more risky, obviously, than the public, because private companies have much higher risks. But at the same time, when you're diversified enough, when you have a large enough, ecosystem and a basket, it's much less risk.
Okay, I just want to leave enough time for a rapid fire, which I didn't tell you, by the way. Again, it'll be fast, and so I just want to make sure there are a couple of important questions. So this show is called Bold Conscious Connections, and connections is the basis for this whole thing. But so bold, I think you clearly are. You are, for me, you're just, you put yourself out there and you have all the courage. You don't need to be pushed to do anything, it seems to me. Ellen, maybe correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you.
But the other side of it is consciousness, right? So I know you're very conscious yourself, and you you do different things. And so are there practices or a practice or two that grounds you, keeps you conscious? I know you're a mother. I'm sure that has a
Yeah.
big part of it in your life because you're devoted. I can tell. Others don't know that, but they
Yeah.
can follow you and they can find you and you can see that.
Yeah.
So what is a consciousness practice that it's part of your life?
I meditate religiously,
Hmm?
and it's been very hard for me to meditate for many years, on and off, but I made it a huge goal about 4 years ago. And I have a meditation group, meditation teacher, and I've done some Kabbalah type meditation,
Mm-hmm.
which was very, very interesting and connected me and grounded me into more of the Jewish practice, things I didn't know that preceded organized religion and were more spirituality and faith. So I loved exploring that, but also constantly learning. Also inside the mindfulness and consciousness knowledge. Tonight I'm going to a class that I'm taking for the next 3 months or so. It's called, I think, mindfulness and gratitude. And so
So how does that translate to what you then manifest in the world? Is there what advice would people who are listening might say? Oh, I mean, people talk about calmness, mindfulness all day long, right? That's the buzzword of this decade.
So the whole manifestation has changed for me tremendously. And as you go on a different level, because when you're younger and all you want to do is, let's say, get into a good college or get a good job, those desires are kind of, well, I think probably easier to fulfill and also are clear. You don't have a lot of options. Now maybe you have a little more options. You can open a YouTube channel or become a creator or whatever, a little more. But I think as you grow and you really have incredible opportunities, right? Like it's hard out of college to get a CEO of OpenAI job or whatever, right? Yeah. But as you grow in your career, you really could hit it big, but you don't know if that's what you want to do. You don't know if that's your path. So manifestation has totally changed for me into trying to listen to what I want and what I need and really trusting. And in the Kabbalah, you have this principle. It's called certainty beyond doubt. Correct. So, and whatever is happening right now, whatever challenges are happening, there's a certainty beyond doubt that this is a good thing and it's going to lead to the manifestation. So it's not about manifesting, oh, I want this job, or I want this business. No. It's about trusting that things will manifest, that you will manifest things that you need with this divine guidance.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm sure that you do that because something led you to that. But what do you struggle with the most, or have you struggled with the most?
This is what I struggle with the most, really. I think.
What's that?
This is what I struggle with the most. I think trusting the universe at times, and being led, because I'm used to being a leader, and leading myself, leading others. I always pick up the tab and pick up the the picks and shovels and go at it. And I want to be led more. I always struggle with that, I think, and I think that's what I'm working on. I'd love to get your 5 cents on how to get that manifested.
Well, we all have something in our, bow and arrow in our quiver, something that we all struggle with. So we
I feel the Achilles heel. I'm revealing all my secrets here.
So before we get to rapid fire, what's one advice you would give to your younger self, perhaps maybe 10, 15 years ago?
I think there was a time in my life, like, this quintessential age of 27, usually, where most musicians commit suicide. Thankfully, I wasn't a musician. Although, by the way, music is one of the things that really grounds me and connects, apparently, scientifically.
And are you a rapper based on some videos I saw, or are you just trying that?
Just trying that this week. My kid has challenged me and said, and it's like, I love rap and I don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, what, you think I can't rap? Watch me. So that was and then I'm like, okay, I can have a career at no, not really. And so no, I do guitar and like alternative rock type of music. But essentially, what I would going back, I think everything happens for a reason, right? And people usually do get into this depressed type of state of what's next. What am I supposed to do? Am I meant to be sitting here at this desk and doing this, right? Being with these people. And I definitely had the doubts. And I think the advice would be the same. Everything is for the best. Just grind through it, I wouldn't do anything different now. Maybe, more positive mindset would have made it more bearable. It would have made it more faith, more belief, more certainty. In general, I think makes people happier going through challenges. It's not about not having challenges, because I think everybody will have them. It's about going through them with grace, with dignity, and with more peace of mind.
Yeah, the Kabbalah line you just mentioned. So I think it feels like, maybe the words are a little bit different, but the way I understand it is like certainty beyond doubt. Well, you want to feel certain even though you have doubt. So you move despite your fear. That's kind of where I'm gathering.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think
fear is everywhere. You can let it destroy you, or you can just say, okay, I'm afraid, but I'll do it anyway.
Oh, for sure. Also, by the way, the famous quote, I think, therefore I am. It was really about doubt. It was more,
That's right.
In the process of doubt, I think, and therefore I am. And it's so grounded into the Jewish philosophy, in at least the Jewish philosophy. And you're constantly being thrown into the situations which test your faith and test your certainty level. And, sometimes you want to tell the universe, please stop. I don't want to learn the lessons anymore.
Yeah.
So that's it. But
it's up to you.
Then they come faster because they say, "Oh, you think you don't need lessons? Let me show you.
Let me show you.
Let me show you. Yeah.
Okay, so some fast, fun questions for you. Okay, number one, New York City bagels or Tel Aviv hummus?
Tel Aviv hummus.
I haven't been to Israel. I got to do this.
Yes, come over. I'll take you to the hummus.
Okay.
But you got to learn how to say it properly. It's hummus.
Hummus, yes, I know. Yeah. That's right. I heard that from many of my Jewish friends. Yes. Okay. Blockchain in one word.
Connectivity.
Cool. If you could teleport anywhere right now, where would you go?
Inside the metaverse. But the real metaverse.
Right. What's the best advice and the worst advice you've ever received?
Trust your instincts.
That's the best and worst?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't have instincts until you've done something, right?
Yeah. Okay. What's the one thing that people always misunderstand about you?
I think it's about everybody almost. When you appear so much on stage and when you have so much confidence, and it's not even imposter syndrome, it's just practice. People think you're a natural speaker, you're a natural presenter, you're an actor, you're this and that. And then I have to sit them down and say, no, I've literally studied this for 20 years and I was terrified going in front of the camera. Sometimes I'm still terrified of going in front of the camera, and I still do it. I think if I could leave everybody with just one thing, it's that things are not what they appear, and people just have tens of thousands of hours of practice doing whatever they're doing that seem that they came to them effortlessly. There's almost nothing effortless about almost anything.
Well, nothing happens without doing it. So, yes. Okay. If you were not in tech or finance, in whatever world you call your world, what would you be doing?
Music.
Not too late. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
Favorite,
it's in the plans. Yeah.
good. Favorite book or movie that inspires you?
Oh my gosh. So hard. I think my first book that I always remember that changed my business perception was The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim
Oh,
Ferriss. But
that's
there's so many books, so hard. And now
of course.
podcasts, movie.
Mm.
Oh my God. I think Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind comes to mind
Wait,
for some reason.
the Jim Carrey, was that a film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and I think that just shows the manifestation that's independent and the reality that's independent of kind of others trying to interfere with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we end with this one. Finish this sentence. The future is
Incredibly bright.
awesome. Well, we could go on and on. I'm just trying to get the person behind the stages you're at and who you are out, to the world. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being here.
I appreciate it.
Maybe we'll do another one to continue if you like. We can do this offline, online, whatever you like. However, so in the spirit of gratitude, I always ask this question. Was there anything that you discovered in these last 40 minutes?
In these last?
Our time together.
In this conversation. Yes. Mm-hmm. A lot. And I really appreciated it because, you don't usually get to talk about yourself outside of work and professional life. And it's fun to talk about yourself sometimes. And so I think I remembered why I was here, why I'm doing what I'm doing and what's fun.
It's great. Keep life fun. It's hard for me. So I got to keep saying that. Make life fun and light. Why don't you smile more? I go, life's so serious. And it's been my biggest learning over the last 5 or 6 years of this coaching business, because when you see people, they go, man, lighten up. I go, yeah, well, you could take that advice for yourself, buddy. I said that to myself. But yeah, when I see my faces, I'm being recorded and I go, damn, smile more. I mean, everyone has a smile. Everyone looks better smiling. And so why don't we do that more often?
Yes.
Okay.
I love it. Thank you so much, Richard. This was really fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, look forward to seeing more of you, and we'll talk again very soon.
Great.
Take care.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you, my friend, for tuning in to another episode of Bold Conscious Connections. If you really enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up, please, and subscribe for more inspiring stories and insights from top entrepreneurs and leaders. So that button is right below here. And also hit the notification bell, that thing next to subscribe, so you'll never miss another episode and any of our latest content that I post, usually every week. I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions, so drop them in the comments below. I would really love to hear more about what I'm doing and maybe bring you something that's more suitable for what you like and other things that you might want to learn about. So join our vibrant community of individuals who are out there making a difference. Okay? Stay tuned for more amazing conversation that will inspire and empower you. And until next time, remember, live boldly and consciously, my friend.